Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Classroom Matters podcast with me, your host, Kristy Houle. And today we are talking to author, executive, angel investor, and a lifelong student of markets, John Foster. Now, John's career failed its way through process engineering, operations, business management, M&A, and corporate strategy, finally failing big enough to exit. He now teaches kids the lowdown on business and entrepreneurship, hoping they will too fail bigger and sooner. John's program, Middle School MBA, has pioneered this space, learning to teach the most advanced concepts to the youngest kids in a way that fascinates and excites them. It is the future of business and economics for kids. John, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's really great to have you.
Thank you, Kristy. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So you have done so many things over the last probably 30 years. You have probably run the gamut of, you've done all kinds of work in angel investing and marketing and business and all of these things. And now you are in the business of helping kids learn economics, middle school MBA. So we want to dive into all of those things, but start by just giving us a little bit of background on your journey and the work that you've done to lead you to what you're currently doing today that benefits students.
My formal background is engineering and business, and I started working in plants 30-something years ago as an engineer. We built plants, we designed plants, we started them up. And then I started managing them, and then moved into the business side. So really, I've sort of got a degree in the School of Hard Knocks, everything from soup to nuts in business and manufacturing. And as I traveled around the world doing business, I kind of had this Adam Smith experience of why are some countries rich and some countries poor? What's going on here? You'd go to Morocco and there's a woman standing in a field minding 7 goats. And you think, is this the best use they have, for this woman? Is this the most she can contribute to society? I studied economics my whole life. That was my concentration in grad school. And as a field, it's something of a mess from the get-go. It was always sort of this muddling around trying to figure out what was going on, starting with Aristotle. He looked around him and he saw these people engaged in commerce. And he's like, well, they're making things and selling things and hiring people and using money and exchanging money for interest. And what's going on here? And so he tried to figure out, as he did, what's the nature of this? What are the rules that govern this commercial stuff I see? Some of it he got right, and some of it he got wrong. And really since then, for a couple of thousand years, people have been trying to fine tune and really understand what's going on there. So it's always been something of a mess. And so it's difficult for people to get their arms around. And so in corporate strategy, part of that game is just to take this big messy picture and figure out what are the most important elements, what's going to drive this thing forward, and then how do we attack these elements. And so basically I've done the same thing with Middle School MBA. Is we've taken the crucial pieces and put them together in a logical, intuitive way that anybody can follow. And we've, left out the noise and everything else that's confusing. So that's kind of how we went from A to B. The actual mechanism, I volunteered with Junior Achievement for a long time, and I kept adding things to the curriculum. Experiment in class and see what worked and what didn't work. And then at some point, I just had my own curriculum going. And then one day I was walking to class and I said to myself, why am I teaching 14 kids? I should teach 14,000. Mm-hmm. And that's when I moved things online and built the tools that I always wanted to have and put together the Middle School MBA package. And Then about 4 years ago, I left my corporate job just to do this full time.
Yeah. So let's talk about middle school MBA for a moment, because obviously I've been on the website, I've scoured through all the resources, I've looked at it, and it is extremely impressive. I will just start by saying that, obviously being 10 years elementary school teacher, 10 years principal, homeschooled my own children. I wish I would have known about this, honestly. When I homeschooled my kids for 3 or 4 years, this would have been fantastic because, we used things like the Tuttle twins and other just random resources, but it didn't connect, right? It wasn't as cohesive as the program that you have created. So let's talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of the middle school MBA and how it is different than what kids are currently getting in school.
Yeah, Kristy, I have to say I'm impressed with how with your due diligence here and how deeply you've gone into this, and you really hit the nail on the head. It's about having everything connected and being really a comprehensive look. I mean, the Tuttle twins are terrific. The Uncle Eric books, they're terrific. But in each case, they sort of tell you the answer, but you don't have all the background. You haven't built it up from day one, and that takes a long time. That's hard to do. I mean, that's of necessity. They've had to kind of jump to the conclusion and say, "Here's how this works." But my background is such that I want to know. I want to be able to take it down to the very roots and understand what's going on. And we constantly emphasize in our lessons, don't believe me because I'm me. You have to independently understand these things yourself. And until that happens, until all the dots are connected in your own brain, don't accept anything, not what I'm saying, not what anybody says. And so that's what we try to do is to show every important link along the way. And what that means is, so much of education since the progressive era, we've had so much siloing of subjects to the point that they're almost disconnected from the real world. And economics has had that in spades. It's just most people think of it as something that really doesn't apply to them. It's just sort of abstract, and it's for some kind of wonky people to pontificate on. But just as Aristotle saw it, what the purpose of economics is to capture real life, the real life transactions people make, and the real life motivations that people have, and so that's what we try to do. And treating it like an MBA captures all that, because business incorporates people, it incorporates technology and science, it incorporates contracts, and it incorporates marketing, dealing with your customer, etc. So all these different factors are there in business, and economics needs to capture those things and explain them in a way that's not detached from the real world. And instead, it's actually explaining the real world. That's what's really different about what we do, and we do it in a way that our curriculum is full of activities. So instead of just saying, I learned from Milton Friedman that prices are guideposts in the economy and they tell us what we should do. But I didn't learn exactly how does that happen. But what we do in our curriculum is kids actually discover prices for themselves by negotiating with each other. And so they understand the nature of the price of being sort of it's not just a fixed thing. It's something that changes. It depends on the moment. It depends on the other options. And so they have a visceral feel for, okay, how do we find a price? And then we have a product where they build parts, and then after they make their parts, they do the accounting and make a profit and loss sheet. So now they have a P&L, and they see how the prices of the products that they're building drive what they want to do, right? And they see how it affects their P&L and their bottom line. And so they understand how prices are critical to directing a single business and what they do. And they understand what that price is, where it comes from. And then we go into all of some more advanced theory about what is a price and what is the money side of a price and what is money? Where does money come from? And so we go from the very simple, concrete business things to the much more abstract and profound economic theory behind it. But it's all stitched together, so they get it. It becomes a fascinating thing instead of just something abstract that that doesn't really apply to me. Now it's a tool. Now it's a tool that I can use, and I can understand how this world works and what place I can find in it and what I have to do to get there.
Well, and do you think, as I'm listening to you speak about all of the components of the program, for especially for homeschool families, right? So I'm going to talk about that for a moment because obviously we have an influx of homeschool families since post COVID. We've seen those numbers rise. I mean, there was already a growing number of homeschool families for different reasons across the country, but now post COVID, we're seeing an even higher number of homeschool families that are taking on their students' education in their own hands. And I wonder if sometimes
And that's a great thing.
Yeah, it really is. I think just choice is a great thing. Whatever parents choose for their children, whatever educational setting, it's great that we have come to a point where we can have choice and we're all working together towards the same goal. So that could be a whole nother podcast, John.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, look at that.
It
We just
really
came up
is.
with a new topic. So what I was thinking was, when I homeschooled my kids for a few years, and I don't know this. This is not my wheelhouse. I mean, I'm an educator by trade, by craft. That's what I've done my whole life. So I know how to teach my kids all kinds of things, but the content was not necessarily something that even came easy for me. So I wonder if part of the resistance sometimes to diving deeper into topics like this, especially in homeschool families, and even public school, we'll even say public school, we'll throw that in there too, is
Definitely public school.
they don't feel comfortable. The teacher, and they don't know what they don't know. They don't feel comfortable. So they are sort of skimming the top and giving that surface level economics information to their students. And that's where it stops. So are you seeing that a lot of times when you take this out somewhere that they're like, oh my goodness, I don't know this information. So therefore I can't teach it in the same way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's actually the biggest barrier for every school, homeschool or brick and mortar school adopting Middle School MBA, is that the teacher goes, whoa, I don't think I can. I mean, number one, I didn't know this stuff. I'm not math oriented, which economics is not math, but people have portrayed it as that. It's logic. But yes, number one, the teacher says, that's not my thing. I don't know how to do that. And number two, they say, well, it's not possible to teach this kind of stuff to kids this young. Nobody does this. This is just way too out of the box. So those are the two barriers. But as soon as teachers look at the curriculum, and we have like a 20-minute onboarding video that teachers use, and within an hour they're going, I got it. And I've had a few teachers that have said, would you come team teach this with me? When I start off, just because I'm kind of, insecure about it. And I go, sure. And I show up in the classroom for about 2 days, and they look at me and say, why are you still here? Would you get out of my classroom?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's my purpose here, is to make this clear for the teacher. Because here's one of the very cool features about Middle School MBA is this is not online learning. Okay, we're a software company and we send you a software package, but we're not going directly to the kid. We're not a child looking at a device, reading a paragraph and clicking next. That's awful. What we do is we do a mind meld with the teacher. So we're going to the teacher and the teacher is teaching to the student. And and the reason that's great is if you're doing this old way of going to the student, you have no idea who the student is, and so you're forced to go to the lowest common denominator,
Mhm.
right? And any kid with two brain cells is bored stiff. That's why everybody hates that mode of learning. But because we go to the teacher, and then the teacher who knows every child, whether it's your own child or just the kids in your class, the teacher then knows the right pace to use and where that student is. So we come in super high instead of the lowest common denominator. We're talking to everybody like an adult, and we rely on the teacher to bridge that gap between wherever that student is and where we're trying to take them.
Mhm.
And so it's remarkable when my one of my big concerns when we put this together was, can some teacher with no background
Mhm.
in business and economics do this? And when I sit in a classroom and watch them do it, they're better than I am because they're actual teachers. They have
Mhm.
teaching skills and they know every kid. And so it's really beautiful the way we hand this to the teacher, and then the teacher just makes magic with it. So
Mhm.
no matter what your background is, you can teach this to your kids.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so I want to talk about the importance of this cross curricular because we brought that up for a moment, right? But so if people that are listening are saying, well, yeah, John, this is probably a great program, but my kid's not going into business. My kid's not
Yeah.
going into economics. My kid's going
Yeah.
into, whatever. How this isn't going to benefit them. So how are we able to use this information cross curricular where you're able to integrate? Because I mean that's really important for especially elementary school teachers where maybe you're teaching fifth grade, fourth or fifth grade, and you are not in the middle school setting where you have, you go to science, you go to math, you go to reading, you're teaching everything. So, and they will say, and I know you've probably heard this, especially from those fourth and fifth grade teachers, I don't have time to teach a whole nother lesson on economics. And if they can't intertwine these items and these components into everything else that they're doing throughout the day in a very fluid way, they're going to be resistant to it. So how does this program lend itself to, and what's the importance of that? Why, if, my kid's not going to be an economics major or a finance kid or a business kid, why is this important?
Yeah, so a lot of good stuff there. The classical education space has this great saying that all learning is connected. And it truly is. I mean, we should look at it that way. And the economics is about connections across a very big area. And and so what you're no, we mentioned before that business incorporates science and legal and people and all these sort of things. And that then economics is the abstractions that explain that stuff. That's applicable everywhere you go. Um, People respond to incentives. That's a basic economic principle. And when you understand that, no matter what you do, if you have a group of parents that you're getting together to go see a movie, everybody responds to incentives. And if in organizing that group, you understand that everybody has their own view and their own ends that they're trying to reach, and now we're trying to do this together. It helps you in the idea of how do I think about coordinating this. I mean, everybody is engaged in hundreds of commercial transactions every month. You're buying food at the store. You're buying clothes and shoes. You're getting maybe a car loan. You're deciding on, you're making career moves. Should I make this horizontal move to another job? Should I? No matter what you're doing, if you're it obviously, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to start your own business, it's critical that you understand this landscape. But if you're an employee, to understand the business's situation and what are your bosses concerned, it makes you a more valuable employee, and it makes you more more attractive to the employer. If you're a homemaker, to understand the lay of the land out there, and to be able to see through sales pitches and that sort of thing. Um, culturally, Americans don't negotiate. It's just something that we don't do very much. But to have those skills, I mean, if you're getting married, guess what? That's a negotiation,
Hmm.
and and understanding the fundamentals behind that makes you more effective at being able to just work your way through life. Um, these are business skills or life skills. It doesn't matter whether or not you're explicitly engaging in business.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think too, something else that I want people to realize about what's so great about this program is if you look at the data, the number of students that are going either into business now, in a college setting, or starting their own business, those numbers have skyrocketed in the last 10 years. However, our educational system offerings in those areas have not. So we have not
Exactly right.
aligned the amount of students and young adults moving into a business world or a business degree. I mean, my son, who's going to graduate in 2 years, hopefully will be playing athletics in college, but he wants to get a business degree. And I know that his high school is not going to prepare him for the academic piece of business with what they currently serve. So he's going to go into college not having the foundational skills to get himself started, or be an entrepreneur or open his own business. So I just feel like we're sort of behind on what we're doing based on the number of folks coming out of high school saying, I want to start my own business. They're turning to YouTube. They're turning to other ways that they can learn how to do these things because the school setting is not giving them the skills that they need. And that's where this program potentially comes in.
Absolutely. It's never been easier to start a business and run a business than it is today. The
Mhm.
tools that are available are amazing. And on top of that, the market you can reach is so expanded over what it used to be. You can have an extremely narrow focus on what it is you want to do,
Mhm.
and you can reach out to billions of people and find your customers with. I mean, this is another podcast we could do just on this subject, that the ability to build a business, the tools available, and the support, the ability to raise capital through angel networks, and all the tools available in that space are just incredible. So so yeah, it's to understand what's going on out there today is
Mhm.
is is just super important.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we're going to talk about one last thing, and I think it might be the most important thing for people listening. And I'm going to say the B word, economics. When you say that, and you know this, to teachers and to kids, the first thing that they think of is boring. It's boring. So how have you guys made this? Because I know, and I say that kind of being silly, but it is boring. When you say
Right.
to a kid, "Hey, we're going to learn economics this year," they're like, "Ugh." How do you guys go about making that engaging and fun, especially for some of the younger kids? I mean, obviously, when kids get a little older, it's okay that they're a little bored with school. But how do you guys? What's your approach on making these lessons fun, engaging, and for them to say, "Oh my gosh, I see it now. I get it. This is exciting stuff."
Yeah, so I'm gonna disagree with you a bit here. It's never okay for it to be boring. I don't care how
Right.
old you are. If learning isn't engaging and fascinating and fun, if you don't feel that, then there's something wrong. I
Right.
criticize history teachers all the time. I say, how in the world can you make this boring? These are some of the greatest
You'd
and
be
most amazing
surprised.
stories.
Oh,
And so but look, you're right on the button as far as the reputation.
yeah.
And it's no accident that the word economics is nowhere in the name of our company. We call it, I mean, the economics has been so badly taught that
Mhm.
it's people fall asleep before you get the third syllable of economics out of your mouth, right? The
Right.
the word is almost toxic. And so we've avoided using it in the name of the company. But it's actually the logic stage, middle school, kids are looking for connections, right? They've learned a bunch of facts up to now, but now they want to connect these together. And the other thing that they want to do is they want to grow to adults. This is my job, is to now grow into an adult and be able to take on the world. But yet the world is a crazy place. And what they need to know is, how does it work? I used to have I used to have kids ask me, they'd raise their hand and say, "Why is this class so fun?" And my response is, "Look, I'm not here to have fun, kid. Get back to work." But when I got that question, that exact question again and again, I started thinking, what's going on here? There's something happening.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure the story is, so you're a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid. You live in this world of commercial transactions. They all look like one-off events that are disconnected, and they're going on all over the place. It's like you're in a battle in Star Wars, and all these laser bullets are flying around. But it's just a confusing mess. But when you start to understand why they happen and what's going on, your world kind of comes into focus, and that feels good. But at that age, your expression of that is, this is fun. But what's actually happened is they're growing into this adulthood. They're seeing a map of how they approach their life, and it feels secure and and good. And so learning should be like that. Learning should be, oh my God, this is helping me. I know how I'm going to use this. This is improving my life. This is fascinating. And we do that by setting up these interactions that are like when kids sit down to negotiate with one another. That's a drama. It's almost like a cage fight there. And we teach them this very high level. Here's the structure of every negotiation. It happens within time and next best options. And then here's all the techniques that happen during the negotiation. And then we do drills. And so they come to this ready to open and anchor and counter the other person's anchor, and then work toward a solution within a time frame. We mess with them all the time. We have what we call landmines, or bumps in the road that we stick in. Like, kids will figure out, they'll prepare for a negotiation and say, this is my next best option. This is where I'd like to get to. This is how much time I have. And here's my strategy. So I go sit down with that other person. I'm ready to roll. You got a timekeeper that's keeping time pressure on the thing. And then somebody hands them a note that says, oh, your flight's leaving early. You have 15 seconds fewer than you thought. And now on the fly, they have to adjust to that, right? Or maybe the note just says, your spouse called and wants you to bring home a gallon of milk. It's just noise, and they have to ignore it. But it's very real life when we have kids pitching companies. So we get them straight into this very quickly. So they're pitching companies, a company to their peers who are trying to decide whether to invest their own money in this company or not. Now, in a typical entrepreneurship class, you develop a business, you give a pitch to a group of adult judges, and when you get through, they politely clap and say, "Great job." Your peers don't do that, and they're talking about investing their own money. They're like, wait. How did your sales go up this much, but your cost only went up that much, right? They're drilling you. And it becomes very real. It's like what happens in a pitch to angel investors. So we've made it very real, very meaningful, and it's tied in with this big body of important fundamental knowledge that we call economics.
Yeah.
And so that's the scoop. That's why it's fun. That's why kids they always say, this is my favorite class. Teachers tell me that again and again and again.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they say is, this changes them. This changes the way they see the world. it changes their whole worldview in a way that they don't have access to otherwise. This is a window into the world that they just don't get.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited about the program and about everyone finding it. And, like you said, you were teaching it to 14 kids and you want to be teaching it to 14,000 kids. And so, hopefully we're helping you with that journey. And so let our audience know where they can find you, where they can find the programs, where they can get in touch with you, if they want to reach out.
Yeah, you can just go to middleschoolmba.com, middleschoolmba.com. Scroll down the homepage. There's sample lessons, detailed curriculum outline,
Yeah.
videos from teachers, the whole 9 yards. And you can contact me through that website. And there you go. That's all you need.
Yeah. Yeah. And make sure everyone listening that you watch that I love the little coffee shop video where the kids go in, because it's so realistic how they put everything on a small scale. I mean, what kid has not been into a Starbucks or a Scooter's Coffee or some small little business every day, and they see this on a small scale, but that really applies to even major businesses and companies. So I think that's so cool that some of these kids that are involved with this program actually get to go out into the community and see these things happening. And it does open their mind up to see things in a whole different way when they have experienced the components and the learning through this program in a way that they're never going to experience it through a school district curriculum. So, I encourage everyone to jump online, go to Middle School MBA, look at the videos, check out what it is, and really maybe reach out to John if you have any questions about it. But yeah, I mean, it's a great program, John.
Thank you so much. And don't hesitate to reach out to me. We want to help kids get on board with this. It took me decades to figure it out. It thrills me to see kids that are 10 and 11 years old getting their arms around this stuff.
Yeah, perfect. Well, John, thank you so much for being with us today. It was a wonderful conversation. And once again, Middle School MBA, John Foster. If you have any questions or comments, you can always reach out to me as well, Kristy at educate.today. And we are signing off for this episode of the Classroom Matters podcast. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Kristy.